welcome to my channel. Welcome to today's video. Today's video is going to be a makeup I regret buying video. So I'm gonna go over some products that I've purchased in the past that for some reason or another, we're gonna get into it, I just regret buying. Now, most of these products I have since decluttered, so I will link my collection and declutter playlist above if you want to just check those out, see more in-depth reasons on these, but I thought it would just be fun to talk about products I just wasted my money on. So if that sounds good to you, make sure you give this video a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't yet, and let's just get started talking about my list here. None of these are in any particular order. I picked 10 things out of everything in my collection that I just regret buying. Now, this doesn't mean that these are bad products. It just means that I feel like I wasted money on them. And I'll be going over more in depth on why. But let's just start with one that makes me probably the most angry, and that is the Kosas bronzer. So I used this bronzer in a full face trying Kosas makeup, and I purchased that bronzer not too long ago, and then I used it within a month. I mean, because a lot of times I don't get to the products that I'm using right away. It takes me a little bit of time. And I tried that bronzer and it just like smelled funky. And again, to reiterate, I had only had that bronzer in my collection unopened for about a month. So I even mentioned in that video, I'm going to reach out to Kosas, see what they say about it. It says it has a 12-month shelf life. I haven't had it for 12 months. So I reached out to customer service and they just told me that it's normal for it to smell like that. And basically that was that. So I just regret buying that because I don't think I'll be purchasing any other Kosas products. I really did enjoy them as a brand. I really like the concealer from Kosas. I really like the oil foundation from Kosas. The Revealer foundation's okay. I can make it work, but it's not my favorite. However, that experience just completely turned me off from the brand because I've never ever had a product to go bad that fast, and it's a powder product. It's not even like this is a cream product. I understand that they're a little bit more natural, but it just shouldn't be like that. And I've seen a lot of people say the same thing, that their products start smelling just very fast. So I don't like that. And I won't be probably buying from that brand unless something very, very just stands out to me. So that's my little rant on that. Highly regret that bronzer. If you've had that bronzer for a while, of course, like let me know in the comments all of your thoughts. I don't want to keep saying this for every single thing, but that bronzer specifically, like if you've had that experience, because I've seen other people have that experience, let me know in the comments because I think Kosas just needs to do something about it. The whole experience with them, I'm just very unhappy about, and I really just feel like I wasted my money. Next up on my list isn't a bad product, but it is a product that was very, very hyped. I bought into the hype and then I never used it. And that is the Kat Von D Shade and Light Contour Palette. So this was like all the rage for a while. And I remember going into Sephora, looking at it all the time. It was very expensive for me and wanting it, finally bought it. And then it just sat in my collection. I am not someone who just heavily contours. I especially don't really use brightening powders almost ever. And I had that palette. I've decluttered it by now. I've given it away, but I had that palette for like 4 or 5 years and it looked brand new. I had maybe swatched it. That's how much I didn't use it. I don't remember ever using it. So it's just a huge waste of money and a reminder to myself that just because a product is hyped up and it's a good product, I'm sure that that product is a very good product, especially at the time when it came out, but it's just not my makeup style. And that's what I have to remember, is just because it's a hyped up product and it works really great doesn't mean that it'll fit my lifestyle and how I do makeup. So that is just something I regret and something I try to be more mindful of, because that was just 100% a huge waste of money for me. Number 3 on my list, I do still actually have. I did a review video on this not too long ago, so I'll link that video up above. And that is the Bobbi Brown Jadestone palette. This is her holiday 2022 palette, and every year Bobbi Brown comes out with the most beautiful holiday eyeshadow palettes, and I never bought them. So this year I saw just like this stunning green shade, this gold shade. I fell in love with this palette, so I decided finally, like, this is the year I'm gonna pick up this Bobbi Brown holiday palette. Every year I love them, but I don't get them because they're a little bit pricier, and this is probably one of the worst palettes that I've tried all year. Like, this color story looks just amazing, right? Like, very rich, vibrant. You would think that these just all perform on the eye and give just that yumminess in an eyeshadow, and it doesn't. These shades, like especially this one, like this is one of the darkest shades. This blends out to like almost nothing on your lid. It essentially just blends away and just falls onto your face. It doesn't stay on your lid at all. None of these shades do. Even the mattes, the fallout on the mattes was just terrible. You can go back and watch the eye looks I did on that, but it was just so bad. Granted, I'm not like the most advanced eyeshadow person, but I feel like Bobbi Brown really tries to cater her demographic is people like me who want simple, easy looks. That's what she advertised this palette as something that could go day to night, just very easy and effortless. And this was the most amount of effort. It just looked terrible. Highly regret this. I kind of wish that I could return it, but I'm not going to. And I just regret this palette all around. Let's talk about more eyeshadows. So these are single shadows, and I had probably every single shade of these. So I'm talking about the Tarte Chrome Paints. These again were popular like what, 2017? I'm not really sure, but for a while, that really bright foiled metallic was everywhere on YouTube, and I had to get every single one. And that was kind of like the rolling point that I remember of companies coming out with like those single shadows. Because afterwards, like Natasha Denona came out with one, Hourglass came out with their version, which was so much better. The Tarte ones performed really well. It's not that they don't, just they are so metallic, and I really just prefer like a sheer kind of glittery look rather than that really bright opaque metallic, and that's what those are. And they were pretty expensive. They were like $20, $25 a piece. And again, I had like 6 or 7 of them. I was always looking to just add to that collection. I had Top Yacht, Sunkissed, Park Avenue Princess, Frosé. I've since decluttered all of them. I don't think I kept any of them. I decluttered the last of them in my last declutter. I just never ever reached for them. I always picked the Hourglass over it. I always picked the Charlotte Tilbury over it. I always picked Colourpop over it. All of those just have like more of that sheerness to them that I just prefer. The Tarte was not for me. It had its place in time, but I regret picking up any of those because they went to waste in my collection, and I ended up essentially getting rid of a practically brand new full product. Now, while we're talking about products that just went completely unused in my collection, let's talk about these Smashbox highlighters. Who remembers these highlighters? This was a collab with Vlada, and they had the most beautiful pan embossing. This marks to me the time that companies really started to pay attention to pan embossings, and everyone went nuts over these highlighters. They were so beautiful. Huda Beauty now has a highlighter that also has like that very intricate rose design. And did I learn my lesson? No, because I also bought that highlighter. But those I wanted so bad. Again, they were very expensive. I think that they were like $38, and I bought both shades, which one was just dumb because one of the shades was obviously way too dark for me, and 2, I just never used them because I didn't want to mess up the pan embossing, which is just silly. Like, use your products if you're gonna have them. I'm past that stage now of my life, thank God, because I actually want to get my money's worth out of products. But these just sat in my collection, not getting used, and the outside packaging was equally as beautiful as the inside packaging, but I just completely wasted my money and regret those purchases because there's so many other highlighters that I could actually use that have beautiful outside packaging. I can still just keep that little bit of embossing without having to completely worry about destroying the inside as well. So I regret those highlights. I've seen, I think other people also say that they just were too afraid to use them. I think Smoky Glow talked about it at one point years ago, but I wish that I just used those highlighters more because I ended up decluttering them. And again, they just went completely to waste because I maybe used it once and I didn't even want to use it once. I wanted it to stay in like pristine condition and just let it rot, which was just really dumb of me. So I regret that purchase. I will no longer be making that kind of mistake, but at the time, I really loved those highlighters. Now, I talked about in the Kat Von D contour palette how I never use those brightening under eye shades. So this kind of goes hand in hand with that. And I'm talking about the NYX Finishing Banana Powder. So I bought this. Luckily, it wasn't as expensive as some of these other products, but I bought this because everyone talks about it. People still talk about it as a holy grail. It is a tried and true product, but I just don't use under eye brighteners. I'm not into that look. It's not something I go for. So I had this powder just sitting there staring at me in the face in my powder drawer, and I was never ever reaching for it. I finally just decluttered it because I came to terms with the fact that it's not my makeup style. But even if you spend $5 on something or $100 on something, like I still wasted that $5 and highly regret it. I will not be purchasing under eye powders at all ever again, just like those brightening ones. I mean, I still purchase, like the Charlotte Tilbury under eye or the Pat McGrath. I like both of those, but those you can kind of also use on your whole face, and it's not like brightening. I really pick more of a powder that kind of matches my skin tone a little bit. A little bit of brightening is fine, but I would rather go in with a lighter concealer and then put powder that's more my skin tone on top than use a brightening powder. And also, like, I'm pretty sure, I don't know for sure because I never used it, but I think that a banana powder is probably too dark for me anyways, and it wouldn't work. Like, I need, for my skin tone, just something even lighter and brighter than that. Everyone just always talked about the banana powder, so I gave in, I bought it, and never used it, got rid of it, and that is that. The next one that I want to talk about also makes me a little bit angry. I don't know if this one makes me more angry or the Kosas. I think probably the Kosas still. But this one also makes me angry because it was so expensive and I feel like this just shouldn't happen. And I'm talking about this Chantecaille single shadow. This was the first thing that I bought from Chantecaille. I had to have it because it has the elephant on top, and I am really connected with elephants. My stepmother loves elephants, so it just is kind of like our special thing between the two of us. So I bought this so I could kind of like use it and remember her. And here it is, and here's what happens to this eyeshadow. It completely just fell out of the pan. I don't know how. I don't know how to fix this. It still works, so I'm like not gonna get rid of it, but this is something, if you know how to fix this, like, do I hot glue gun it back into the pan? Like, how can I fix this product so I can actually not worry about completely destroying it? Because this is what, like $60 or something like that. This is like ridiculously expensive for a single shadow, and I just don't. Here's my dirty makeup eraser that I use for swatches, but like, what do I do with this? I don't know whether to like laugh or cry about it because this is not okay, right? I mean, I can't be the only one who thinks that. This is just not okay. The color is so beautiful. I do actually use this product. I'm just now scared to because I don't want to break it further. I can probably find a video on YouTube on how to fix it, but if you have any suggestions for me on what to do, I would recommend it. But I do regret purchasing this because now I'm just scared to use it, and it kind of makes me a little bit mad because I just feel like for the price I paid, this should not have happened. Next up on my list is a product that is just bad. So I regret it because I just don't think it's a good product. I feel like I wasted my money on them. And they are the Colourpop colored eyeliners. Actually, any of the liners, the lip liners, the eyeliners, anything that's in like a little stick, I just regret purchasing from them. Colourpop is fairly inexpensive, so it's easy to get into that collector's mindset of just like, you have to have every single color and shade. But these liners specifically, I have not come across a good one just personally. They dry out super fast, super quick. And some people are okay with that because of the price point, but I'd rather just have my 1 or 2 eyeliners. Like these are the eyeliners that I have. So I have this Charlotte Tilbury one that has a brown and a nude. And then I have this Smashbox one for my black. Those are the only 2 eyeliners that I own that I use. Oh, that's not true. I also have this Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk, but I don't use that very much. But that's all I need, a brown, a nude, and a black. So I don't know why or who I thought I was that I needed like green, blue, purple, silver, white, like all these colored eyeliners, and they just go to waste because by the time I use them, they're dried out and I can't. I have to throw them away anyways. The lip liners are a smidge better, but they still dry out really fast. And I would just rather have 1 or 2 Charlotte Tilbury lip liners that work and I know that they won't dry out than have 30 Colourpop lip liners. That's just my opinion on that. If the Colourpop formula isn't uniform across the board, like some colors are better than others, let me know. But any of the ones I've tried out, I've eventually just decluttered because I've opened them up and they've been completely dry, broken off, and just not great for the amount of usage that I used out of them. Not worth it for me to continue purchasing, and I just regret buying any of them to begin with. I have an eyeshadow palette again for a product that I regret. So this is the Natasha Denona Mini Tropic Palette. So I did do a ranking all of my Natasha Denona palettes not too long ago. I will link that video. But if you saw that video, I had all my Natasha Denona palettes for 2 months, and I really just stuck with those palettes so I could rank them. And in those 2 months, I never once reached for that palette or wanted to reach for that palette. Now, thank you, Jesus, I only bought the mini and not the full-size Tropic palette because then I'd probably be more angry at myself. At least this was like a $25 mistake and not a $129 mistake. But those colors I just don't use. I think if you've watched any of my videos, I am very much a neutral eyeshadow person. If I go for color, it's still going to be like a purple or just more of like a green, an earthy tone color. I don't go for blues, for greens, for bright neon pigments, for pastels. It's just not my journey or my vibe. And I don't know what I was thinking when I bought that palette. I think I was just thinking, you know, hey, maybe one day you're gonna want a blue eyeshadow look and you're not gonna have anything. So get the Natasha Denona one because it's great quality. But no, I never reached for it. And I had that palette unused for 4 years or whenever that palette came out. I mean, I think it's been at least 4 years, but I'm pretty sure that I never once even touched or used that palette. It just sat there completely brand new for years in my eyeshadow drawer, and I wasted $25 on it. So I regret that purchase. I would have rather had Starbucks for an entire week than buy that palette and just look at it sitting there. But the collector in me wanted all the Natasha Denona palettes. I had to have them. So I bought that palette and I just regret it. It is out of my life now, and hopefully I just won't continue to make those same mistakes. Now we have the last product in my collection that I regret, and this is more of just a general category. I do still have these in my collection. So this is makeup. So these are eyeshadow primers. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 eyeshadow primers, And I haven't used eyeshadow primer one time this year, 100% for sure. And I keep this Smashbox one because this is the only one that's open out of these 4. So I keep this on my desk, like with my eyeshadow pencil, with my mascara, kind of like my essential things on my desk. So that's not even hiding in my drawer. And I still don't ever use eyeshadow primer because, just going back to the Tropic palette, I don't wear those kinds of looks where an eyeshadow primer is needed. I don't have a glitter glue, and maybe I should probably have one of those because I do really like sparkly shades, but an eyeshadow primer, like, I don't need. Like, you can see my eyeshadow look now. Everything I'm wearing on my face is always listed in the description box below, but the eye looks I do just never require an eyeshadow primer. And so I have all of these. Like, I even have the new, it's not new anymore, but it was new at the time, the Anastasia Beverly Hills one, like, not opened, not used. I probably won't ever use them. I should really just give them to someone who actually uses eyeshadow primer because they're just sitting in my drawer right now, going to waste and taking up space. So highly regret this. It's just not something I use in my routine, and I don't know why I have 4 of them. That's all the products that I have to talk about today. Hopefully you enjoyed this more ranty style video. Sometimes it's nice to just get things off your chest a little bit. So I'm going to end the video here. Let me know in the comments below the makeup that you regret purchasing, and if you're changing some of your habits as well on just your purchasing mindset when it comes to buying these products. But this is where I'm going to leave you all, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, everyone.